and welcome to The Art of Being Human. What I'm going to do today is continue from where I started off last time and show you more things that will help you to understand how you take care of your diabetes. Now, what I want to say first, though, is that if you are diabetic, you must take care of yourself. You absolutely must, because it is so easy to get into trouble. Every chronic illness has its challenges, every one of them. But with diabetes, it seems like it's easier to have emergencies than it is in some of the other illnesses. And the reason for it is simply because you have to eat every day. It's a matter of everyday life. You have to balance off the insulin with what you eat. You have to balance off the insulin with your exercise. And if you're just going to live a normal life, you've got to eat, you've got to sleep, you've got to do some exercises, you've got to walk around. And what happens is that you are always balancing off your illness with insulin, with nutrition, and so it is a battle every single day to keep those things in balance. And now I'm going to start off here by talking about hypoglycemic reactions. The most unpleasant thing about being diabetic is the hypoglycemic reactions, when your blood sugar goes down too low. And you're going to know it because the symptoms are really profoundly disturbing. And if you have, well, let me mention about hypoglycemia. There is an illness called hypoglycemia. It is an illness in and of its own right. However, when you have too much insulin in your system, and that's what hypoglycemia is, you're always feeling like you're crashing. And now, if you take too much insulin, you exercise too much so that your blood sugar gets too low, anything that you do that gets things out of balance, you can get symptoms of hypoglycemia, even though your illness is not hypoglycemia. So let me tell you the symptoms that you will deal with, because you'll recognize them. If you're diabetic, you're going to recognize these symptoms. You'll start feeling shaky, sweating, feelings like you're going to pass out, dizziness, you can't think straight, your heart may start to pound, you may have headaches, you may have poor vision, your vision gets really blurred, and a lot of fatigue. And you can get some of those symptoms if your blood sugar is too high. So you have to know for yourself what your individual reaction is. But those are the symptoms of low blood sugar. And when you start feeling this way, you must treat it immediately. Because if you don't treat it immediately, your blood sugar is going to get lower and lower and lower. And eventually, you're not going to be able to talk. You're not going to be able to think right. You're going to wander around, eventually passing out and going into a coma. And eventually, if an intervention is not done by putting sugar in your system, you could even die from it. So it's a very, very serious thing. When you get lower and lower, you have to treat it, and you don't wait. You just treat it right away. So how do you treat low blood sugar? Well, when you have any of those symptoms, what the textbooks will tell you is that first you want to check and see how low you are by checking your blood sugar. And most of the time, if you're feeling that badly, I wouldn't even suggest you wait. I would suggest you treat it immediately. So how do you treat it? Well, 15 grams, suppose you know you're low. You need 15 grams of sugar immediately, or some kind of carbohydrate immediately, 15 grams. Then what textbooks will tell you to do is wait 15 minutes, see how you feel, check your blood sugar again, and if you need it, take another 15 grams, wait 15 minutes, check it again. If you need it, take another 15 grams and gradually work your way up. This is what the textbooks will tell you to do. In my experience, however, if you're that low that you feel that terrible, you better, I would even say skip checking it. If you know that you're that low, just start eating the carbohydrates. Now let me show you something. Well, first of all, 15 grams, you could drink a half a soda. This soda has 30 grams in it, so if you want to drink half of it. The difficulty with the soda in the can is what do you do with the last half a can, just carry it around with you. It's better to take, what I always have with me is my famous Mountain Dew. I take a few swigs on that and guess whether it's 15 grams or not. Another surefire thing are these glucose tablets, which I meant to bring in last time. If you can take a shot of those, they are a little round wafer. They're insanely sweet. They come in different flavors. This is fruit flavor, so there is some orange and grape, and they're a little different color depending upon the flavor. They're very, very sweet. They kind of melt in your mouth, and you kind of just chew on them and swallow them. But they have only 4 grams of carbohydrate in them, so you're going to have to eat several. But if you keep them with you, they're easy to carry. You can get smaller bottles. This has, I think, about 50 of them. You can get some that you get, a group of them, and they're wrapped up like lifesavers if you don't want to take a whole bottle with you. But you need to have something always on hand. You can have hard candy. That'll work. You need 4 or 5 of those as well. These will probably get into your system faster than the hard candy, but they don't get into the system faster than the glucose or the sugar that you get from a soda. Now I want to show you something. It has to do with nutrition. A lot of people use hard candy, and that's good. There's nothing wrong with using hard candy. You'll notice this has real peppermint oil, not that that makes a difference. And you'll have, this is a company that puts both of these out. So this is Crystal Bay, and you have your hard candy. It's all individually wrapped, little small hard candies. This is Crystal Bay, and these are hard candies. The difference between these two, this one is sugar-free. Does it make a difference? Well, I'm going to show you something. If you take these have sugar in them, and if you take 3 of them and make sure you suck on them and get them down into your stomach, 3 of them will give you 15 grams of carbohydrate. If you take the sugar-free, 3 of them will get you 15 grams of carbohydrate. Does it make a difference? Not really. You're getting your 15 grams of carbohydrate even if you have the sugar-free or if you take the ones with the sugar. So what I want to point out is just because something says it's sugar-free doesn't mean it's not sweet. There are a lot of sweeteners out there, not just sugar. So a company can advertise sugar-free, and if you're eating the candy just because you like it and you don't have a blood sugar issue, you say, I must be safe, I'm not getting sugar because it says sugar-free. But what you're getting is something that's so sweet, it's going to bounce your blood sugar up. When you look, and I want to show you this, in the back of all of your, well, maybe I should put it, no, I'll just hold it up, it'll be good enough. On the back of of whatever product you have, you're going to have a list of all the ingredients. Now, what I did was I magnified this so it would be easier to read. You don't even have to check the sugar. According to this, there's only 1 gram of sugar. And you say, well, that's pretty good, only 1 gram of sugar. The hot carbohydrates are 20 grams. So where did the 20 grams come from? Well, it came from other sweeteners or other things that they put in that will actually sweeten something. If it's fruit, of course, then it's going to have some natural sugar in it, and you're going to have natural sweetener. Now, why is this important? It's important to know that when you get something and you want to know how sweet it is, because you're either going to use it when you get crashing, or you're going to use it because you just want to eat it, but you don't want to go too high on the sugar, you don't even have to check the sugar content. What you have to do is check the carbohydrates. The sugar has already been figured into the carbohydrates. So you don't have to, the sugar is not even an issue. It's been figured into the carbohydrates. So you see what your carbohydrate is. In this case, it's 20 grams. So you'll know you're getting 20 grams of sweetener. It may not all be from sugar, only 1 gram from sugar, but you're getting 20 grams of sweetener. So that's what you have to prepare for. There are a lot of fake sweeteners out there, and they're not based on sugar. Some of these fake sweeteners, I think, are more dangerous than sugar are for your health. So when you to get back to this again, it doesn't matter whether the mints or the hard candy that you eat has sugar in it or whether it's sugar-free. You're still going to get the same amount of carbs anyway. Now, I noticed here, it's naturally fat-free. The same on both of them. They have that sign, naturally fat-free. I consider this to be basically an advertising gimmick. And the reason I do that, do you ever know, have you ever heard of candy that's got fat in it? If you have, I want to know about it, because I've never heard of hard candy getting fat in it. So I think that's more or less an advertising gimmick to get you to buy it. So you can use your drinks, you can use your glucose tablets, you can use hard candy, you can eat other things. When you're eating something, you should also include protein. Milk is good, and anything that'll raise your blood sugar up. But remember, what most people are going to do, they're going to feel so bad when they get those symptoms of low blood sugar that they're going to actually just grab a soda and they're going to start drinking until they feel better. If you eat or drink until you feel better, you're probably overcorrecting and getting too much carbohydrate, and your blood sugar is going to go sky high. It's better to take enough and then rest for a while, recheck it, take some more if you need to, and gradually get it up. But I know the symptoms are awful. The symptoms are simply terrible. I was riding to a concert. My sister was driving, and the lady who was beside her, we had a guest with us. I was going to be performing, and we had a guest with us who was diabetic, and she insisted in not taking extra food or extra juices or anything with her. And I said, why not? Well, I don't want anyone to know I'm diabetic. And I said, what if you get into an emergency? You don't have anything to lift up your blood sugar. Oh, I won't get into an emergency. I ate some crackers before I left. I mean, I said, you didn't have a meal? This is an evening concert. We're going to be gone for 2 or 3 hours. And she says, no, I'll be all right. Well, wouldn't you know, she started shaking in the car, and she was sweating, and the sweat is dripping off from her. She doesn't feel good. She was going hypoglycemic. Her blood sugar was too low. So I took because I always carried stuff with me because I know I crashed because I'm a brittle diabetic. And I got this can of soda and I started giving it to her. And my sister said, you're going to have to give it to her. She's in such bad shape. She can't drink it herself. So I had to reach around. We stopped the car and I had to force it in her mouth. I had to basically get the liquid in her mouth for her to swallow, swallow, swallow. And finally she came out of it. But if she'd only been smart and had something with her, she could have felt herself going low and eaten enough so that it wouldn't have been such a crisis. Now, I was sitting where I used to work at a university, and we were looking out the window, and there's a man kind of wandering around, just wandering around the parking lot. And he acted, we thought, a little bit drunk, and somebody had called the police, and they came over, and they were going to arrest him for drunkenness. And he couldn't talk right. He finally said something like, diabetic, sugar. That's all they needed to hear. They knew he was in a hypoglycemic reaction. They gave him a glucose injection. Within a minute, he was fine. But he didn't know what he was doing. His blood sugar had dropped so low that the brain operates on glucose. When you eat and you digest food, that's your nourishment. But it turns into a sugar called glucose, and the brain works with glucose. If you do not have glucose in your system, your brain does not function right. And if it doesn't function right, you can pass out, you can wander around, you can't talk, you can't figure out what to do. So when you start start getting symptoms, you have to do something immediately so you don't go down so low that you're in a real crisis situation. And believe me, that happens. So let's go on from this. You could take 4 glucose tablets. You could take 1.5 tubes of glucose paste. And I don't have any with me, but it's like it looks like a toothpaste thing, and you squeeze it in your mouth, and it's glucose. You can eat and chew 5 Lifesavers, 6 jelly beans, a small box of raisins. You know, we get those raisins in packages, and some come in little boxes. You could eat one of the small boxes. You could take a tablespoon of sugar, a 1/2 cup of orange juice, a 1/2 cup of soda, but make sure it's not diet soda because you will get no help from diet soda. It has to have sugar in it, or 1 cup of milk. And now I want to, milk is good, by the way, because it has both carbohydrates and protein. And I want to mention, if you are taking diabetic pills and you're not on insulin, you have just as much danger of crashing and going low as if you had an insulin shot. And the reason is those pills that you take lower your sugar level. The purpose of taking pills is so your blood sugar won't be so high. So these pills are going to lower your blood sugar. It may do so by forcing your pancreas to create more insulin than what it wants to create. But however the mechanism works, it's still possible to get very low on pills. So you still need to carry with you something in case you get in a crisis situation, because you can get too low on the pills as well as if you're taking insulin. Now I want to mention this note, and this is really important. And I just read this. If the note that I have here is this: if you are taking Glycet or Precose, you need to talk to your doctor as to what to take if your sugar gets too low. Because what normally helps people who are taking normal, different kinds of pills will not work for you. As a matter of fact, you probably will have to use glucose tablets and milk to get your blood sugar level up. But if you're taking those 2 medications, Glycet or Precose, talk to your doctor or your nurse educator about what you should take, because what works with most people will not work with you, which means you could be in a crisis situation really fast. You know, I was in a gymnasium. I was at some kind of an event, and there was a woman standing by the wall, and she's kind of shaking. And I says, "Are you all right?" I walked up to her. "Are you all right?" "No, I think I need some sugar or something." I says, "Are you diabetic?" "Oh, yeah, I am, but I didn't have anything with me." You know how it goes. People never think they're going to get into a crisis, but you always have to plan for it. So I offered her a soda, because I had one with me, and she refused it. "No, I don't want to take your soda." I says, "I'm not in a crisis situation, you are. Take the soda, you'll be better." But she wouldn't do it, and she had somebody with her, so I don't know what happened after that. She was still shaking, but I couldn't convince her to take what I had to offer. So at that point, with the experiences that I've had with people that are unprepared, what I usually do is I take 2 or more of everything. So if someone's in a crisis, I can just give it to them. And then I still will have something for myself if I need to. And now remember, if you're driving, doing long distance driving, make sure you have plenty of extra food and snacks with you in case you need it. Make sure you check your blood sugar level before you start driving, especially on a long distance trip. You need to know that your blood sugar is high enough so that you won't get into a crisis situation when you're on the road, especially if you're on a highway. And if you're a newly diagnosed diabetic, you don't stop to think about it because you're not used to it. You're not used to always having something with you, but that's what you have to have. You have to have something with you at all times just in case. Now I'm going to close it here, And I'm going to continue with this next time, and we're going to go into what do you actually take with you? What do you carry with you? If you're on a trip, if you're traveling, or even if you're just going around town doing errands, there are things that you should have with you at all times. There are some things that you can leave at home. So I want to get into that as well. So we'll do that next time. Please join me then.